Jason, we're recording. Jason, like we were saying, I look forward to this every week.
No, I love this. This is my favorite thing of the week. And somebody said the other day, they're like, what do you love to do? And I was like, podcast. And they're like, what? And I was like, I said this is rude, but I said, I kind of like podcasting better than sex.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that wild? Because sex spiritually is a oneness. You have oneness with somebody else.
That's right.
So
it's a unification. It's an act of creation itself.
And then you're at that moment, you're actually meditating because if you really think about it, because you're like super present in the moment.
That's we'd hope you are, not thinking about someone else.
So what happens when you orgasm with someone?
Well, that's
the orgasm together.
So if you leave the physical sense of it,
right?
There's an actual energetic signature that is, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use this word, discharged. Right?
Yes, I get that.
So if your body has a charge to it,
right,
it would be leaving you, the male, right?
Because we're crystals.
The male is the potentiator of that energy.
Right.
And the receiver of that energy is the female. Right? So, I don't know how many times you have sex, Jason, but the female will...
3 times a day.
You'd be like, all right, I'm going to bed, right? But the female's like,
I have
wow.
a harem.
Female's like, I feel great. I feel energized,
right?
right? And this is a function in nature. You can see this happen in nature also. You know what I mean? But if you're talking about the potentiator, it's that energetic signature is now leaving one body and going to the next, right? And they're both meeting each other in the middle to create this unification, right? This unification of energy. So I think the reason you like podcasting so much is because it actually is a function of sex. Why is that? Because you're...
So we're having sex right now, Alex?
Yeah, I guess you are, right? Because
what is it called? Verbal? Are we having verbal sex?
Because
Amanda's not going to like it.
Because our idea...
And a lot of people don't know.
Dude, I got to get away from the mic. I can't.
A lot of people don't even know, but we are naked. You have to see that in the video.
They got no idea. You got to go to the video to see that we're sitting here naked.
Yes, we're sitting here.
Joke's on them. They had no idea.
So this unification,
what you're doing right now, as we talk, as we create words, that sense of creation, making something new, that is a very, that is like one of the most basal forms of our energetic signature, right? So if you think
what's our chakra there?
That's the red.
The red?
That's that creation,
okay,
right? That's that creational energy. Right. That's what you're doing.
So when you're on...
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay,
yeah,
so people can see that.
Yeah, they can see us naked.
No, the red is right now.
Yeah, it's red. It's red right now. But that's the point. So if you say this is better than sex, well, it actually could be, because you might be doing this more often, right?
Oh,
and there's actually more. You're more in the present.
I wonder if I podcast every day, I'd probably be like, But because I only do this like once a week, desensitized to. Like if we were in the studio every fucking day.
I gotta find it. You're gonna be like,
okay, what are you doing? I gotta go do a podcast with Alex.
I gotta find a new partner.
Yes, I need a new partner. This is
really
not fun anymore. This is monogamous. It's monogamous podcasting.
He's feeling really worn out.
Yes, really worn out. Yeah,
he's energetically worn out. Things have gone limp here in the studio.
Yeah, limp, literally. Yeah, so getting back to you're dying, huh? Getting back to we do this all without any drugs, by the way.
What's a drug?
We're
drugs?
We're not microdosing doing podcasting.
No,
I'm not opposed to any of that. I'm actually kind of interested.
Hold on a second. You want the sheet of acid? You want
this? Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested because I've never done any of that. But and we'll do. I don't know, everything internally, external, all that.
I'm glad you said that, because I had someone, a new listener to the podcast, found me over here in Albuquerque, and they're like, "Do you take drugs? Like while you're like either on the podcast or after the podcast or while you're meditating?" I'm like, "No." Well, I'm like, "What? Why do I need to do that?" So I was like, he had asked, she's like, "So, well, doesn't taking drugs like move you into that state you want to be at?" Well, yeah, sure it does. It opens you up to that state, right? That higher form of consciousness. But you haven't prepared yourself to get to that point. It's almost like a forced initiation, right? You didn't take the proper steps of learning and knowledge and attuning that body, right? To get to that resonation where you can deal with that higher form of energy.
And people don't realize that we are tuning forks.
We're big tuning forks.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how we stand. You ever hit a tuning fork?
Yes.
Well, your legs are like the end of the tuning fork, right?
Exactly.
So your energy's going into the ground and out the top too. Goes out both sides.
We're just little vibratory beings.
I'm thinking about I can see like a good cartoon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was funny because I was just listening to a cartoonist talking about what we're going to talk about today on the hero's journey. And he was talking about his hero journey. It was a TED Talk. And he's one of the top cartoonists in the United States now. But he was, don't ask me for his name, I'm sorry. But it was an amazing TED Talk. And he was talking about how much of an influence somebody can have on you without even realizing. Like he had a cartoonist come to his school and walk by his desk and would give like a presentation and then walk by his desk and they had to draw out like animals or whatever.
Yeah.
And he drew this cat and the guy walked by, the cartoonist said, "That's amazing. That's a really great cat."
Wow.
And from there, it catapulted his whole life.
So genuine,
Yeah.
though. But what that gentleman was saying was so genuine, and that weight that he never forgot at that moment. He's always carried it
he
forward.
made a TED Talk on it.
That's amazing.
Millions of people listened to that. That guy's probably dead and doesn't even realize that he said that to him.
No,
Probably wouldn't even remember that.
he probably won't remember it. And that's a good point too. You know, what you do, just because you're not going to remember it, doesn't mean it's not going to have an impact on somebody else.
Yeah, I agree.
We all
100%.
interpret and perceive things in different ways and to different magnitudes.
Because
you know?
we're all individuals.
Yeah, we're all individuals.
That's why our
correct.
data is so important.
Oh yeah, and you know something? If you got important data, well, it makes sense that if it's important, somebody wants. It's got to have value to it, right?
Yeah, it has to have.
I would.
Well, if your data is as valuable as you are in this new economy,
It is, right? It's that new model, right? That's
of
what we are.
value for who you are.
It's the digital self. I mean, if you're valuable going to work creating things,
Mhm.
right? Well, if you're home on your phone, you're just as valuable creating things with your thoughts and your data.
Right.
Well, I would pay for that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you get paid for your data?
Well, because for a long time, people haven't had an option for people to get paid for their data.
So that evil guy with what's the little square thing?
Oh, the little monocle
The
on his eye?
monocle, yeah, like the
Yeah.
Monopoly dude. That guy has been getting all your data for free.
He's a data robber baron.
Yes, that's what he is. Yeah.
Big gut.
And it's time for you. It's time for you to get paid for landing on that property.
Wow. Have you heard of any resources where that can something like that?
I
can
have.
happen?
I heard of this revolutionary new company that's out there
Wild.
that will
tell me.
pay you for your data.
Oh man, tell me more.
And it if you accidentally mistype the word turtle,
You switch the U for an A?
yeah, and then you get turtle.co,
Yeah.
and you can actually get paid for your data. Question though, real quick. People have asked me this. I had the guy that was just here. We were talking about you earlier, and he was asking me like, "Why the word turtle?"
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So can you give people your data company that you own,
Mm-hmm.
the exchange of data that you have with turtle.co? You're the co-founder.
Yes, I am.
Can you explain why you decided to use the word turtle?
Yeah, it's great. So
I love this. Actually,
I got Scottish blood.
right.
Okay. And I also like etymology, like the root history of words. And I found a really interesting word as I was going through, because if we say like watermelon here in English, it may
Right.
mean something like shoebox or something in like
Right,
a different
right.
language. Or
Chewbacca. Yeah.
when you try and like retranslate it, right?
Right.
That's why you have those problems when things are like, in Mandarin to English or English back to Mandarin.
Yeah, but I mean, what was the fucking word Uber before?
Yeah.
Now we know the word.
Now we all know what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean,
That's exactly right. So I was thinking, like, what's a word that kind of aligns with me, right?
right.
I'm not trying to be selfish, but what aligns with me? And then beyond that, I'm like, okay, what is not going to be screwed up if someone tries to like translate it across borders? I only want it to mean one thing, one place in the world, and nowhere else. It can't be confused. And that was a tartle, because a tartle is that moment when you go to make an introduction to someone. You know that brief, awkward pause
Yes.
when you introduce somebody to someone else and you forget the name?
Oh yes. Yeah.
That's-
you know what I mean? I am bad with names. You know how many times I've done that?
It's called a tartle.
Oh.
So why did I name
Is
it?
it a Scottish word?
It's a Scottish word, yeah. So why did I call the system that? Because I am the intermediary that brings two anonymous parties together in an introduction where no names are shared. So I was like, this word's perfect.
Dude, only you would come up with something like that.
Like-
Like so intricate like that.
I'm like, this
It's got
word's
layers.
perfect.
Yes.
Like an onion.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
exactly like an onion. My mic is way too hot, bro.
But if it wasn't for the help of this incredible person I know who set up this company, it's called Rigby Digital. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, let's talk about that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
I want to get, dude, I am so stoked when you brought up this topic.
Mm.
And because I had come up with a couple others, we were going to talk about some old ancient manuscripts. And
Yeah,
then
like
we're
Sanat
gonna
Kumar.
get
Yeah,
into-
Sanat Kumara. No big deal. Look it up, everybody.
Yeah, and that's a good one. And then we're going to talk about, which I know, which is religious dogma. And we're going to get into that one.
Woof.
Because I think that's important, understanding fundamentalism and, what is out there and how the history of the United States and how we got to where we have churches and
Nice.
the pilgrims and where you're from and your family. Is your family mostly Congregationalists? Are they Lutheran? So they would be really old. Were they Catholic? What?
Catholic.
They're mostly Catholic.
A lot of Catholics.
So because I mean, you guys were one of the first people here,
Yeah.
and your family was.
So my family actually brought over the first pair of skis to the United States.
the first pair of skis.
Yeah, to Stockholm, Maine.
That's awesome.
Nuts.
So they
First ski shop, first set of skis, taught people how to ski. I don't even know how to ski. I'm a snowboarder. Don't tell the rest of the family. You know?
You don't. So you actually don't know how to ski, huh?
I don't know how to ski, no. But it's funny that it's just like it's in our blood.
And then from there, you guys come here, and now you have this religious association with being Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mainly where your family. But I know there's a lot of people out there that are Catholics, that are Christian. Christians seem to be the primarily, I would say, 80% of people in the United States probably associate themselves as being some form of Christian.
Yeah. I was forced into CCD when I was younger. And I think it was
Did you do catechism and all that?
I went through the whole gambit. I did everything.
Did you go to a Catholic school?
Yeah.
With nuns and stuff?
No, I didn't do that. It's scary.
Yeah.
I don't want the whole...
I've watched those horror nun
No,
movies
I don't want anyone cracking no
Netflix.
ruler across my
I'm
hand.
done with that. When they start, like, those black eyes come out and shit,
Yeah.
I am out.
No, thanks. I don't want to get into religious dogma too much, but the point is, I was kind of forced into it, right? But that wasn't my journey, right? I realized that is something that I wasn't supposed to follow.
Right.
It showed me what I didn't want,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was important. But I'm glad I got to see the other side.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that, I mean, because I know people that are Christians and Buddhists, and I know people that are, but I just don't like labels, bro. I mean, I'm not into that. I don't want to say I'm a Buddhist or I'm, I mean, we put labels on higher density living. We've kind of have some labels on there to kind of like altruism and stuff like that.
Sure.
Some philosophy statements and stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't want people going on our website and then reading these labels and then seeing if they align with it or not.
Yeah, don't try and align with the label. We only put that there because we're trying to take something that sits out of context and move it into a context so that we can understand it conceptually.
And that's what we just did with the United States government, the IRS. Dude, this is so crazy. We just wanted to start a not-for-profit
Yep.
that will help people. That's
Yes,
our
correct.
whole. We want to give a ton of value and help people. Ask nothing in return.
Yeah.
We encourage donations, especially with Bitcoin.
Oh,
You
definitely.
can go on our website and we have all that. To help move the podcast along because we want to do more and get more teachings out there, and we need, especially on the digital side of things. The reason that we need donations is so that we can pay people to help us put this out there. Because you don't have the time of the day.
I honest to
You're running
God
a
don't have
company.
the time.
I've got 2 company things going on. So to be able to have people where we can outsource some of this work, to be able to have them help us get the information in this digital age to get it out there.
Right.
That's what we need donations for.
Well, that's what people are listening because of things like
Right.
that. Yeah.
But you can. So what is the process if somebody wants to donate on our website? What's the process with that?
Oh, so cool. You click on the donate button, and there's a massive QR code that pops up, and you just transfer the Bitcoin right over instantaneously, right?
So if somebody has Bitcoin already,
Yeah.
what if they don't have Bitcoin and they want to donate?
If they don't have it right now, we're setting that part up next, right?
Okay, cool.
That's the thing we got to do with the IRS, because you're getting into the whole IRS thing.
Oh my God, it was so
Oh.
horrific. They want us to have a statement of faith. And
Yeah, it's like you have to
They want
have
us
a
be
dogma.
like a Lutheran church.
Yeah. Oh, and what else do they want us to do? How do you punish people? They wanted to know.
discipline, church discipline.
The IRS was asking, well, how are you going to punish people that screw up within your church?
because they're trying to establish that we have a membership,
Yeah.
which all of you that are out there listening, if you're vibrating it as one with us,
Yeah.
'cause, we believe in the law of one. So you're members of our congregation. If we want to use, oh my God,
It's
bro.
just
so
terrible.
stupid.
I know, it's awful. And then you use the word, and then you're like, crap, I don't even want to apply it to
Yeah,
that.
and then they're like, I'm a minister and you're a minister. And
Yeah.
we have to have like deacons and board members and
It's a mess.
yeah, it's we've created.
Why can't
this
I just do
religious
good?
mess
Just let me do good.
and be free to be able to do good?
And why are you taxing me for doing good?
That's a whole nother
That's a
podcast.
sick thing. I can't
Yeah,
even
we're
get
gonna
into
talk
right
about
now.
that, but
I'm disheveled.
so question, Alex, what is after 14 minutes?
Oh, man.
What is the podcast about today?
We're going to talk about the hero's journey, right? The hero's journey is the major archetype, and an archetype is a theme. So it's this theme that we found through all the great myths of time that all of us share. And our contention is not only that the great blockbuster films of Hollywood, right, and the greatest books of all time carry through this hero's journey,
Star
right?
Wars, Odyssey. Yeah.
Everything, all of these steps, right? Is that in a smaller format and a larger format, these cycles of the hero's journey, because it's a cycle, are also found with everything we do day in and day out throughout our life. And we are actually on this hero's journey, and that's what we want to get in touch with, right? We want to talk about the application from a spiritual sense, because this is the oldest spiritual truth, right? The hero's journey is dealing with how does an individual spiritually evolve, so that once they've learned that spiritual evolution, they can bring back and teach it to their common man, right? To their fellow man with them.
So that's what, because I know Joseph Campbell kind of made this really popular and wrote a book on it. But you were saying it was before him.
Joseph Campbell, he struck gold, right? He did a really good job putting it into a format that everybody could understand through his literature, right? Hero with a Thousand Faces, the hero's journey, the major monomyth. And then before that, he studied Freud, because Freud was trying to understand it, right? From a psychological sense. And then before that, Freud got it from the guy who wrote Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan's Wake, very popular book back in the time. But they have these major, monolithic themes, right? Or mono themes that were in there, this one specific thing that was trying to go through. And they found that everybody has been sharing these themes over and over and over. And the things that actually resonate with us the most, that we really attach to, right? The things that emotionally move us, all share these same points in this journey.
Right.
Right? And this is, oh man, I just thought of something. I'm amped up.
Okay, here we go.
I'm amped up, right?
This is like Mountain Dew time.
Okay, a child, all right? So if we're thinking about our hero's journey, this is something that you go over the event of your entire life. You'd have to understand all the different concepts of one world and the next, the things you learn, the trials and tribulations, right? And then you bring it back to teach other people. And you emotionally connect with that. When you watch a film, right, even like a Marvel film that might have something like this, you've connected with it. But what about a child? A child can connect with that film just as much.
Yes, they do. A lot of the cartoons are.
So let me ask you something. If a child is just getting started in its innocence and hasn't gone through these trials and tribulations, how is it that a child can emotionally align with something it hasn't truly experienced in this lifetime? Oh.
Because it's the same as our mountain goat. How can a mountain goat know to, in 2 hours, traverse all the cliffs?
That's exactly right. So that means there's something, because the hero's journey speaks to the spiritual nature of our archetypes, the major themes in our journeys of learning. That means this child has experienced it somewhere else if it can also emotionally attach to what's going on.
So you're saying that the hero's journey and this just reinforces reincarnation.
That's right here. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I just felt that all of a sudden. I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
When I consider the child, I'm like, well, how does a child align with it? But now I'm getting on to something.
No, because,
here.
I mean, whether you watch Dumbo or like Little Nemo.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Finding Nemo.
Yeah, Finding
Little
Nemo.
Nemo.
Yeah, Little Nemo. Yeah.
Why do you got to put people in a box?
It was a little fish, bro. I connect with the Dora fish. We don't remember shit.
Yeah, don't remember anything.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, where am I? Speaking of whales.
Yes, exactly. But all of those cartoons, all the Marvel movies, any great movie that we watched copies the hero's journey.
All of them. All the greatest blockbusters of all time have a perfect format of the hero's journey.
Yep. Even George, I was listening before this, George Lucas talked about that he copied Star Wars.
Yes.
We know how successful Star Wars was.
Oh, it's great.
From the 70s till now, all the movies. I don't know how many they have out, but I'm not a huge, but even you go to Star Trek, Star Wars, any of that.
Lord of the Rings,
it's all Joseph Campbell hero's journey.
All of it.
With the way that he put it out there.
Right.
And so a lot of these producers and stuff like that read his work and said this would make a great way to make a movie.
Yeah.
So let's start on the hero's journey.
Okay.
So let's get into part one of it.
Well, we got to explain there's two worlds.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
And this is a parallel for our podcast.
Yes.
And when I say podcast, I'm talking about the thematic idea of all is one and moving into that region of the unknown. So the hero's journey, about 40% of it is in the known region. Okay? It's the known world. It's the things we're very comfortable with. Right? It's a large part of the identity of you. What makes Jason Jason. And then from that, you have to take that step into the unknown region at the beginning of that journey, right? Where things become uncomfortable.
The journey doesn't happen until you're in the unknown.
No. The journey happens.
That's what makes the journey.
It's the second you take that step off the cliff's edge, right? Into that unknown region. That's when the real journey happens. That's when the initiation begins. And only at the end of that learning, right, that stage, can you then take all that information when you're adept enough to understand it and wield that power and bring it back and now share that power of that other world with all the other people that haven't experienced it yet. So like what we're doing with the podcast, it's just a recycling of the hero's journey.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. Because when you look at our shows and you go through the processes of each of our shows, you can see, and we're going to get into these, but you can see each of that evolution of how we began to share each part of the story.
Yeah.
Then it's gonna resonate, and everybody goes through a hero's journey.
Every single person,
whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
In previous lives and this life.
And what's really cool is if you start to, and I've done this, I've taken a lot of events that have happened in my life, and I've looked back and I'm like, how does each point actually pertain to the hero's journey?
Oh, that's so good.
Small catalysts for change in my life, or even large ones, right? Are all cycles within cycles. They were all following the same theme, and it's very funny, right? So, and right now I feel like, I'm back in the known region where I'm sharing with everyone what I've learned through my journey, right? And then I'm go back and I'm going to start that cycle all over again, because as we share, we're going to teach other people, and then we get to learn from them, right? They teach us, and then I'm back on my journey again, right? Through that questioning. And that's what you and I are doing.
Yeah, I think that's what our podcast is about, is questioning reality.
Yeah, I don't know how sex applies to the hero's journey. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, dude, it's
I
not
guess
only
for you,
dude,
that's
it's not only a call to adventure. It's not only crossing the threshold. It's not only a reward.
Wait, who's your mentor though?
It's not a road back to an atonement. It is the hero's return, bro. At the end, sex is the hero's journey, all rolled up in one. I don't know what type of sex you're having, Alex.
Yeah.
5-minute sex, not hero's journey.
No, it's got to be a lengthy, multi-month, multi-year process.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know?
We're in this for the long term, baby.
Yeah, literally the long haul. I got to cross the threshold.
Yes, that's every woman will love you if you can cross her threshold.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So yeah, I guarantee you there's a chart for a hero's journey in sex.
It has to
If
be.
I googled that shit right now, I guarantee you.
Because
you can relate to everything.
Yeah, it's I guess, how did he describe it? It was like a meta myth, he called it. Why do you call it meta? Because it's something that is spiritually shared between all human beings. It's to show that we all go through the same processes, so we're all unified in this journey together. So Joseph Campbell understood very, very well the idea of unification, unity, right?
Maybe that's why we have such great sex with certain people.
Well,
because we're on that same journey.
You're both on that same journey, right?
And we're at that point in life, and that's where we're attracted, and then we go from there. Because people are going to come in and out of your journey.
Well, think about certain shows that people watch on TV. Maybe it's like a doctor show, but it's like actually quite negative, or like a cop
Dr.
show
Oz,
or anything like that, right? Is that the show is feeding into the energy of that point of their journey. Like, you may walk in and ask, why are you watching this all day long, right? This is crap. Because you've already learned to move past it, but that's the point of the journey they're on right now.
What's that one in where I'm from, Seattle, and everybody loves, and it's Dr. Dreamy and all that shit? Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy, thank you.
Yeah, people will literally sit there and binge watch it after they've watched it like 2 or 3 other times.
Yeah, and it shares the same theme over and over and over, right?
But
the same
it's a
sort of
hero's
sadness.
journey.
It is a hero's journey. In total, it
the
is.
Doctors and all the problems that they're having.
Yeah,
that's why we relate to it.
So before we look at the application of our life, right? Let's talk about the journey itself. And
I want to get into this really heavy.
Let's understand. Let's have everybody understand what the structure of the journey is. So break me into the first one. What are we talking about?
And one thing I want us to do through this process, Alex, is be open and share each of us through a journey that we've had in our lives through each of these.
Oh, okay.
Because people love stories.
Yeah, I know.
And so I think we've all gone through this in my life and in your life. So I want us to delve into that. We can just give kind of a quick little story on each one.
Great.
Is that fine with you?
Of course it's fine with me.
I know sometimes you have an issue. Guys, this is so funny. Alex cannot fucking take a compliment.
I don't want him.
I gave a compliment. The other night, I gave you a compliment, and then I fucking slammed you.
Yeah.
And you were fine with that.
I was fine with that.
I was like, take a compliment, you. I used the C word.
Yeah, choice words.
The bad C word.
Yeah.
Then you were cool with that. You just like text. But one time I gave you like a really good compliment, and you were like, stop it.
Yeah, cut it out.
You can't handle it. Yeah.
It's the last thing. We don't need that. We move beyond that. It's not necessary.
Dude, it's good for you. Good for your soul.
Who's it really good for?
I think it's good for you to accept that you're helping. Like, you're helping people. And the things the knowledge that you have and how young you are, those are all things that you're using to serve others. So when somebody tells you thank you, that should be, how should you respond to that?
You're welcome.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I hate a nerve. You've done that to me a couple times in the podcast.
Yeah.
You pushed me to the point of being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit, it's, all right, whatever.
cool.
What's the
Part
first
one.
one?
The part one of the hero's journey is call to adventure.
Okay. That's the start of your journey, right? Everybody's, you're happy, you're innocent. This is childhood,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or Luke Skywalker, his parents get killed. I don't know if
Right.
you've watched Star Wars. Okay? And he's like,
Yeah, I have, yeah.
he's like, shit, I gotta go be a Jedi. You know what I mean? Imagine, is that what it takes? Your parents gotta die first, and then you're the Jedi.
But a lot of times that trauma hits the call to adventure.
There's a catalyst.
Right.
Something happens in the life, right, or your life, or all of our lives, that are like, okay, I know what I'm currently living. This is my world. This is how I observe it, right? But something's changing, whether it be the seasons or a job or some other function, right? I gotta move. I gotta move myself. I cannot be stagnant. There has to be some sort of change that needs to occur because something with me is not aligning with the environment that's around me.
Because we have to accept that there is constant change.
It's that constant change.
And that vibrational part of us has to move.
That's exactly right. And now if we had a world that was static, didn't change, there'd be no point for the hero's journey. There's no catalyst, right?
Right.
When you try and stop the movement and everything, and then at that point you don't learn. There's no learning. So what's going to drive us to that learning, right? So you're like, okay, do I go? Do I make this change? Do I move from one state to the next? Do I refuse this change? I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but do I take this journey, right? Do I leave this job? Do I move into a new type of business? Do I start something, right? Do I follow a passion?
Do I stop something?
Yeah.
Like a relationship.
But you got to remember, if I do that, I'm going to start moving into my next sort of wedge here on the hero's journey, the next phase, right? Am I comfortable enough to do so? But I'm going to refuse it. It's just too much. It's too much of a burden. I've thought about it too many times, okay? And you as your own hero, you're like, it's better for me to just stay in my ordinary world, what I'm safe and comfortable with.
So people have this experience inside of themselves where they're having this call to adventure.
Yeah.
But instead they're refusing it. How do you know? Because we believe everything, you have the answers inside of yourself. So you don't need anything external.
No.
How do you know to get, this is very practical and I want to ask this, Alex, and I know you'll be able to answer it. How do you know to trust internally what it's telling you to do and the adventure that's coming there?
I'm glad you asked. Every time your guts told you to do something,
Mm-hmm.
every time you fought it, you were like, shit, I should have listened to my gut. Every single time. Not one time has your gut ever steered you wrong. The only time you were steered wrong is when you tried to fight your gut with logic. It was always telling you, it was the true intuition of who you were. It was your second brain, and you refused to listen to it. There's so much energy here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the true calling of your nature sits in this area, or the lower three chakras.
But I've had my intuition where I've just, so, because I want people to understand this, because I don't want people just to go out there, and you'll be able to back me up on this. I don't want people just to go out there and just trust their guts all the time.
No.
Because my gut, like let's say I have an issue with distrust and I'm in a relationship and my gut is telling me this is when I used to have monogamous relationships, but I was married for 20 years and I'm like, this person's cheating on me or they're doing this. And it was totally false. I mean, it's
Right.
But my gut was telling me because my ego was reinforcing, giving me these emotions and feelings. It really wasn't. Was it really not coming from the gut?
That wasn't coming from the gut.
Okay,
You were
explain
living
that.
in a state of fear. Your gut does not understand fear.
Right.
Why are you trying to apply a concept, a human concept, to something that is pure intuition that sits outside of that construct? That's what you were doing.
So how
your
how
gut
do you
wasn't
know,
telling you to stay there. You were trying to fight what was really telling you.
So how do you know if it's your intuition or your ego that's saying to start this company or do this or do that?
Well, just ask, is it an egotistical decision? Is what I'm thinking, is there ego or attachment to it? Is there some sort of attachment that drove me to this feeling? Or did this feeling just well up because that is just what the highest truth is inside of myself?
And are these emotions pure?
Yeah.
I shared somebody that you told me, and it's funny how you'll tell me something, and then I will think about it and resonate with it, and then 2 months later it hits me. So, and I was, teach, learn, and I was talking with someone the other night, and I was talking about free will, and I think this poses
This is an important factor. Yeah.
this stage, And I told him, I was like, the situation you're in with the person that you're in, they're imposing on your free will. So what are you going to do next? Because obviously, if anything or anybody or anyone or anything, whatever it is imposing on your free will, it's wrong.
That's correct.
And we did a whole thing, and I want to kind of delve into that a little bit more. Not today, but this call to adventure. If you're saying, I can't go start this company, or I can't do this, my gut's telling me to do this, but I can't, and then you're imposing on your own free will, how does that play out?
Well,
like, how do you get over that?
That's it. That's really interesting. You got to understand it. That requires a huge amount of self-awareness to understand that you're the perpetrator for what's going on. You're stopping the catalyst for your own change, learning, and growth. And that takes a lot of self-reflection. That is to realize, like, wow, I'm shooting myself in the foot.
Literally
shooting myself in the foot. I won't be able to walk.
You can't walk forward. Yeah.
I can't take that step. I'm pulling myself back out of a state of fear and attachment to what I'm comfortable with. That is not necessarily the truth, right? Is not necessarily the thing that aligns with you the best, but I'm comfortable in that world because I can understand it and I can control it. And your idea of control, of controlling that world, means you're trying to control yourself and you're not allowing the freedom of expression and intuition that you truly have. So you'll never take that step.
No. Comfort is the enemy to adventure.
Of course it is. And adventure is uncomfortable. But what happens when you're uncomfortable before, for so long? You become comfortable.
Yes.
It becomes normal for you, right? This is just commonplace. And then you get used to taking on so many catalysts, and then your ability to learn begins to accelerate. It becomes exponential at that point.
I just did a podcast on my Albuquerque business podcast. Shameless plug there.
Number one podcast in New Mexico.
Number one. And he said it wasn't until he was 41 that he handled his substance abuse, and how he dealt with the substance abuse, because I kept like pushing and kept asking more questions, and he thanked me for that at the end. But he said the number one thing that caused him to get over his substance abuse was he realized how fearful he was.
He realized the fear.
And he climbed Mount Rainier, climbed Mount Shasta, climbed all these different mountains and stuff. He began in his 40s doing all that. Started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, and all that stuff. But he said, anything I was fearful of, I just went and done it.
Because those things, that mountain is a physical representation of the size of his fear. And for him, he couldn't just spiritually overcome it. He had to physically overcome something so that he could use that as a parallel to then at that point, spiritually overcome it.
So when our intuition's telling us to do something,
do it.
And we're extremely fearful in that.
Yes.
Dude, I fucking love this shit.
Then find a parallel for something you fear physically and go conquer it.
Yeah, like for instance, maybe it is an issue with ADD or something like that. Go immerse yourself in meditation.
Go do it. And it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be like, this is worthless.
I know. I've gone off of it for like 3 or 4 days just because I'm getting angry at the end.
Who are you getting angry with?
I know. It's got to be myself.
It's yourself. But that's the form of the meditation. You should sit there through that anger.
Yes, I have to confront that.
You really do.
But it's my fear that doesn't want to confront it, right?
That's correct.
Because that call to adventure on meditation for me...
Meditation is a call to adventure. It is. What are you doing? So you're in your ordinary world, and I'm asking you to step into an unknown region, one that you don't know. When you initiate yourself in the focus of all of your fears, this dark place, right? This murky place. And you got to trudge through it with your blades and your armor and all these things that you had to protect you, and you're going to be stripped of all these things. And when you strip yourself of all these attachments that you thought gave you security in this dark world, and you find yourself bare and naked, no ego left, nothing, that you give yourself up to what this power is that sits on this unknown region, then you can begin to embody it because you understand it. And at a point when you're most exposed, that's when your learning is at its greatest. And from that, like a big J curve, right? You go back up. And you begin to climb and climb and climb, and you bring yourself back again to this world, this known place you were before, to see that where I was living was not the truth. These ideas and what I thought was reality was not right. I didn't realize how much of an imbalance I was. I didn't realize how much power was in this unknown world that I could bring back with me so that I could benevolently share and uplift all the other people around me at the same time.
Because that's the whole reason of the journey.
That's the whole point of the journey. The journey has frankly nothing to do with you.
Why do we make our journeys all about us?
That's an ego thing. The journey is about learning so that you can go back and teach others. that just couldn't find that catalyst within their own lives to go on that journey. You are but a propagation or a catalyst for them. That's what it is. You just had the balls to step into that dark room when others didn't.
You know what I'm relating? What's been hitting in my head since you've been talking over and over again about and this is funny, you may laugh about this, but it's so true for me, especially for my life. The movie Conan, the old movie with Arnold
old barbarian one.
Yes, Conan the Barbarian.
What a great film! He could barely speak English back then.
Yeah, but I mean, that is like the epitome of the hero's journey in my life. Like, there's like fighting and unknown worlds and people you're coming up against, and then evil, and and then that whole process of learning of yourself through that. And I think that's what's important, and we're going to get into that. So number one, in part one of the call to adventure, is the ordinary world.
It's ordinary world. It's how you view things right now. It's our programming. It's how we've been programmed to accept things. It's comfortable, right? You're sitting around, you're comfortable. I don't want to get up and do anything. I'm happy in my chair. I don't want to go anywhere.
So that's you getting a realization of the ordinary world is where it starts?
Yeah, that's what it is, right? So you're like, this is quite ordinary. This is comfortable. But then you get a text message from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you come meet me here? Right? There's a call to adventure, right? Where you get an email saying that you have a new job opportunity. Okay, that's step 2. It's the call. It's the first stage of that catalyst that gets you thinking. You know what I mean? Should I sit here in this chair? Should I go try and do something new? I'm quite comfortable here. But is it necessary? Should I go forward and ask myself for more? Should I do what my gut is telling me what I should follow through with? Become the true self that I am?
You have a business, I have a business. How many times so I had this coming up Tuesday, I'm going to Snapchat. And I really didn't want to go because I was like, I got to go to a flight, I got to go to LA, and then I got to get an Uber, and I got to go to... But they invited me to their headquarters, and I'm like, it's a call to adventure.
Yes, it is.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen there.
No, but what did you do? You refused it. You're like, I don't think I should go.
No, I don't want to go. I got a lot of stuff going on.
But that's your third stage, right? So you had 1, 2, and 3. So you sat in the third stage, which is the refusal.
Right.
You have the opportunity.
So the ordinary world.
Yeah.
The call to adventure, which you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then the refusal.
Refusal.
So let's get into this refusal.
Yeah. Why were you refusing it? I want to talk about a parallel
because
here.
The ordinary
nice.
world. I was in the comfort side.
You're comfortable. Is it really necessary for me to go to Snapchat, even though they asked me to come out here? I don't know. Is it? But what made you change your mind? What was the
I told myself that, because believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert. A lot of people see me and they think I'm because of sales and all that, they think of me. But I'm finding myself to be more and more of an introvert. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. But there are these points where I can be I like routine, which I never thought I would say that, but maybe it's because I'm getting older.
Okay.
So that's the comfort zone, right?
That is the comfort zone.
Yeah, so anything that pulls me out of my routine that's positive, there's nothing bad going to happen with me taking a day, 24 hours, flying out to LA real quick. It's like a 2-hour flight, grabbing an Uber, going to Santa Monica. How bad is that?
It sounds terrible.
Hanging out at headquarters, meeting executives at Snapchat.
Right.
I mean, nothing is bad on that. And then me just flying back that same evening.
No.
Leave my car parked at the airport. So I kind of went through that whole process. I'm like, why are you refusing this, Jason? This is self-awareness.
So that's self-awareness. So for you, see, in most films, right, to move into the unknown region, there's a mentor. There's someone that says, hey, wake the hell up.
Right.
Time for you to take this journey. Stop being so comfortable in what you thought was the truth. Let me show you that there's more going on.
So who's your mentor?
Books. Books. I am my own self-mentor through books, right? So I find that when I read certain ideas or philosophies,
so do you resonate with the author?
Many times. I know that there are certain authors that I resonate with more than others.
So you can actually feel what they're feeling when they're writing the words.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Many times. I've read, it's going to sound wild, but I've read nonfiction books, quite, heavy books. And I'm kind of welling up, and it's a nonfiction book. There's not even a nice story to it, but I could feel the passion that was going on with that author at that time. And then you can feel where their passions come from, and they tell you most of the time where they found their passions. Mm-hmm. So then I follow those chain of people that shared those passions, and then they act as mentors for me, and then I can continue to reflect on them, right? One author is just reciting another author in a different format. No knowledge that has to be gotten or known right now isn't already known.
Yeah, Solomon talks about that in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, where he talks about there's nothing new under the sun.
That's a very true statement, because consciousness has access to all knowledge at once, so no idea is actually new and original, right? It's a shared thought that we all have. It's just you choosing to pull it out of the, as Rupert Sheldrake would call, the morphogenetic field, and use it right now.
So this refusal
that you have.
is based off of some shallow, egotistical
Fear, attachment, right? So you leave that fear and attachment. I'm attached to my routine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an albeit big fear, but I just, out of my own laziness and my lack of wanting for catalyst to change, I don't want to go to Snapchat.
Yeah. Or you guys moved from what both of you
both
and
of us
knew,
uprooted ourselves.
and moved to Albuquerque.
Moved to Albuquerque. No one's ever been here. My family has no relation, nothing.
I think your girlfriend loves Albuquerque more than you do.
Oh, most definitely.
She's always like posting like great things. Like
Yeah.
with the balloon fiesta, she posted like
She's
this
great.
is so amazing.
She's good at photography. She's doing good stuff.
I'm not cool with this winter weather right now, but
No, this
dude,
is
I
nothing.
literally walked out the other day and it was like 30 degrees outside.
That's not even cold.
Yeah.
I was outside I was outside just like t-shirt and shorts. Like, it's nice out. But the point is, but you got to find that mentor, right? That person that brings you into that unknown region. And you, for yourself, you had some self-reflection. You've been through this journey how many times? Because of your age.
Yeah.
Right? You've done it over and over and over and over, and you realize, guess what? I've been through this process before. I'm going to be my own mentor. I'm going to realize that it's pointless for me to say I'm comfortable to stay here at the house. Why not just go take the catalyst and go over to Snapchat?
Yeah, I didn't want to. Another trip I had here recently, I did not want to go to Dallas to meet with these Mazda executives.
Yeah.
Because I felt fearful and really intimidated to go. Next thing you know, I'm put at a table, don't even know who these people are, and it's the president of Mazda, the vice president for sales,
Yep.
and this guy that owns a bunch of dealerships in California, Texas, and Hawaii. And we sat there for 4 hours and had an amazing conversation.
But that was your...
But that was my refusal. So I know, like, I can look at previous things I've had.
It was the ordeal, though. And this is the second phase of this. It's the ordeal.
Right.
You know, people say, I don't want to go through the ordeal of doing something like this. You
So
know what
part
I mean?
2 is supreme ordeal / initiation.
Right, where it's just like, it's so much, the ordeal. It's like, it's just a hassle to go through. You're like, I'd rather not. But this initiation, like I said before, when you're trudging through that mud and you brought in your armor and you have to let it all go, you have to remove those attachments, that initiation, that means the beginning. That's when you truly start to learn, and that mentor will pull your hand through, right? They will teach you, and they will bring you on that journey, and they will continue to usher you forward into that very uncomfortable, dark world that you've never stepped into.
So I've watched 300.
Great
and
film.
the Spartans talk about, they had a whole initiation process, and that's actually true history.
Yeah.
It was a heavy-duty initiation process.
Everybody has it. You had, if you went to, remember we talked about CCD?
Mm-hmm.
There's an initiation process. You got communion, right? You with the Eucharist. You got baptism, and you also have the what's the other one? Towards the end, I don't know.
I'm not Catholic. But
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Point is, they have initiations,
right?
So that at the end, you've studied enough material, you've gone through the rituals, you're now adept, right? Well versed, your understanding of that knowledge, that they send you back out into the world to then share it.
Why don't we have initiations for our teenagers nowadays?
What would you initiate them in?
I don't know, like maybe going out in the wild and like learning how to defend for yourself, get away from your cell phones.
Well, I think we've lost the initiation of self-awareness. I think that's the most important thing. And we don't have to go out into the wild to do that. That's sitting by yourself silently in self-reflection, wherever it is.
I'd rather go out in the wild than do that.
No, I know. You would. It's like, I'll go out in the wild.
A cougar.
Rather than me learn about myself, I'm going to go out in the wild and go stare at some nature. Right?
Because I know Native Americans had initiation. I mean, most cultural groups have had some form of initiation when you go from, the Jews have it, when you go from that 11, 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old stage, especially among men.
Right. But the shaman, say like the leader of that group, says, you got to go out. I'm going to be your mentor to move you into this place that you were very uncomfortable with, right?
And that's the 4th stage.
That's that 4th stage. And now you're in the threshold. So, okay, this shaman has been walking around my tribe, talking about all this spiritual stuff, these things I don't really believe in or understand, this knowledge that I'm not accustomed to. But now I'm starting to feel this knowledge.
So the shaman is the mentor.
The shaman is the mentor in that fashion, right? So if we're going to use the shaman as just an example.
Yeah, Native American culture.
Native American culture.
Where they hang people by their skin.
Right. And that... And when you're out there in this initiation, you become tested. You go through these trials and tribulations.
Right.
And within that, you begin to learn more about who you are, and you're beaten down, you're broken. The ego of you goes away.
Yeah, imagine like big hooks in the back of you.
Yeah.
Scanning, you're hanging there, and you're totally helpless.
Yeah.
So physically you're in pain. And we see Jesus on the cross, same scenario.
Well, Jesus also went through a hero's journey.
Yes, he did. Yeah, you can go through the whole Bible and see that.
It's applicable everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what
Buddha, when he had to give up everything, all the comforts of the palace and stuff.
Again, he left his attachments,
right?
So he went into the dark world, left the attachments behind, realized that it wasn't going to help him, acquired his knowledge so that he could come back and share with his fellow people what he had learned. He was
the unknown world to him.
The unknown world, right? So it's going into that unknown world. And those trials, those tests, or like in the movies, like it says on here, the enemies. Whoever that figure of supreme power that the person has to go up against, when the odds just seem insurmountable, that is like the apex at that point.
So we have initiation.
Yes.
And then in that form of initiation, we have a mentor helper.
Yes.
That comes along, helps us move us in that direction. I want to get into, before we get into enemies, because test, allies, enemies, all that, that's super important. And you were fixing to hit there. And because we have enemies. Yeah, fixing to hit there. Number 5 is crossing the threshold.
Yeah.
And I don't want to skip over that because this part is the part where people choose to go back to the ordinary world, to go back to comfort.
It's asking you, do you dive all in? So if you're at that meeting with the Mazda executives, do you sit there at this table like meek and quiet? Or do you dive into the conversation and listen and truly go to learn? And understand that, guess what? I'm here. I'm right now in this moment. I'm going to take it for everything it's got. Like people say, grab the bull by the horns, right? You're going to cross that threshold. You're already in the dark world. Are you going to turn around and go back to that area of light that you were comfortable with? Or are you just going to embrace all those things you truly don't know that make you uncomfortable and face them head on? That's the threshold. That is the second set of decisions you need to make.
Which is interesting because one of the head guys, we shared each other's hero's journey. That's what we did. We sat there with a glass of wine, and I shared my hero's journey, he shared his. Not even realizing it, that's what we did.
Again, that's the unification factor that we all have. This is the unity that makes all of us one. Is we're all on this journey just in many different formats. And so no matter what, if you say you're like, I'm bad at conversation, you can always sit down and share a hero's journey, and every single person sitting across from you,
they're going to listen to you.
They will listen and they will resonate, and you will have the most beautiful conversation.
Dude, I love sharing openly my struggles.
You have to.
I've learned that. It's like, it's not a form of weakness.
It's not weakness at all. Again, what you did is you were in that area, you crossed that threshold, and you embraced the struggle in the unknown world, right?
So you're on that cliff's edge, and you know you have to cross the threshold into this unknown world. How do you go over the cliff's edge? How do you, because that's scary when you look down. I remember those, like Red Bull has them and all those guys, and a lot of them die.
Squirrel suits?
Yes, the squirrel suits. And to get that moment where you're willing to jump off a cliff and know, because I think everybody I was listening to a guy the other day from Red Bull, and he was talking about there was like 21 people that made the suits, and then kept going and going and going, and all 21 of them are dead. So there is death because you're facing enemy. It is part of the hero's journey. Death is.
But that's not there's nothing to fear at that point. They've embraced what they truly wanted to do.
So that's why we don't cross the threshold?
Yep.
Solely because of fear?
Solely because of fear. That threshold, that final threshold, right, is the last remnants of fear saying, hey, there's a lot of power. There's a lot of seemingly insurmountable odds.
Right.
Am I willing to just break through them? I've gone so far. Do I turn around now, or do I just continue to push through?
So this crossing the threshold, do we make that decision?
You make that decision, always. Always remember, you have the free will in every decision in life. Nobody makes that decision for you.
So if somebody's telling you need to cross this threshold, then you need to step back.
You need to step back.
Because you're not on your cliff edge.
It's not for a mentor or someone else to come up and be like, hey, you need to go do this. A true mentor will only suggest. They will share their knowledge and their journey. It's not for someone to stuff information down your throat and say, this is how things are.
To be a part of this church, you have to be baptized.
Exactly. You don't have to do stuff like that. This is now for you as the person, this hero in this journey, to have that self-reflection.
To be a part of this company, you need to go to these parties and you
Wrong.
need to do this. And you
Wrong.
need to do this that's immoral.
That should be a huge red flag for you in your life. No proper mentor, no proper place would ever ask you to do these things that hinder your free will.
Because I don't want people to be on the wrong journey. This isn't a hero journey if you're
That's
just,
not a hero's
if
journey.
you're just giving in, being
Yeah.
victim.
Jump into the dark world, do things you are uncomfortable with.
Right.
No, that's not what we're saying. You know exactly where you're supposed to be. Do not
Deep
let
down, we do.
you
And I'm
always
learning
do.
that more and more.
You always do. And Jason, as you begin to focus on that more and you begin to refine that feeling, you're going to be so laser-like in the focus of that feeling, you'll know exactly what needs to be done all the time.
So how did you know when you needed to cross that threshold with Tartle?
You know what my greatest learning point was? I'll tell you. Okay, I had gone through multiple points in my life where I was in my comfortable world doing my things, right, in my bubble. And I would push myself to do things that I really shouldn't be doing. And I truly knew I shouldn't do it. But something about my ego was telling me, go do it. Like, go get it done. Be a part of that. Be tough. Be manly. Do all these certain things, right? It was these very egotistical, competitive things that were driving me to make choices that I really, I shouldn't be making. And I knew they didn't align with me. And all those times I was doing them, right, as a general overview, I'm like, you're surprised you make it out of there. This is the best way I could describe it. Like, why would I ever make that choice in retrospect? It was not even a positive choice, right? I was doing it just because whether it was be for some sort of gain in myself or some sort of, weird idea that I had, some construct of who I was supposed to be, it just wasn't best for me. And I knew that and I could feel it, but I disregarded that feeling the whole time. And the one time that it really physically came back to me, and I've been hurt multiple times, I've burnt my hands so many times in life learning lessons, was I had played D1 rugby after rowing at Temple University, right? So I went into rugby. I was like, I need to do something, and I've never really done anything rough, anything very contact sport in my life. It just wasn't a part of, it wasn't in my nature. I knew, Jason, at my core of my core, right, that it wasn't for me. It's not my energy. Football was never a calling for me. None of those things like that, that physicality of it, there was a finesse that I had. And that's the finesse that I needed to continue to follow, but I was fighting it. Because I feel like I needed to do something more manly, right? I feel like I had missed a part of my life.
Right.
But really it was my ego speaking to me. So, I went through all the practices. I was doing a good job. I was good at it. I'm athletic by nature. And I'm going to one of my matches, but I can't seem to get there. I used to ride my bike everywhere in Philadelphia. And it was a very hot day.
Right.
So I'm riding around, and someone said it would be somewhere, but the match was moved, and I lost my cell phone signal. So I'm frustrated because I don't want to show up late to a team event. I've never been late to any of those events. Because if you're late to rowing, the boat doesn't move. It has to have a certain amount of people. You have to be there. They're required for you to be there. So it was this idea, it was this energetic signature I've always carried that I need to be there for that sense of support. Even though this thing was like fighting me, and I knew this wasn't the thing I wanted to do. So I end up showing up, albeit late, and I get out to the field, and, the day feels strange. It feels off. There's something strange about the energy. And I'm like, I know I'm here, and I'm just going to go for it. So I go out in the field, right? I step into that unknown region, and I have no mentor. I'm just making poor choices. And within the first 5 minutes of the game, I take this gentleman down who's about 300 plus pounds, and I rip the ball out of his hands in the scrum, yada, 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 and he gets upset. So as I'm getting up on one knee, he comes and then jumps on top of me. This is 300 plus pounds. That's a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I overextend my quad muscle, and I snap my quad muscle in half. I was in an excruciating amount of pain. I tried to stand up, and I immediately fell over, right? And then I think I'm going into heat stroke. It's a mix of panic and all these other things. And then going through my mind is like, Alex, you fucked up. You weren't supposed to be here, and you knew it.
Right.
And now you've gotten to yourself. Now you've physically experienced a true pain because you weren't spiritually aligning with what your body was telling you to do.
So you face an enemy.
I faced an enemy.
But you were in the wrong path.
But I was in totally the wrong path because I knew I wasn't supposed to be over there, right? I was disregarding the true part of my journey. I wasn't accepting the self-awareness and what I knew was right for me. So I took a path that I wasn't supposed to go down. I ignored my gut. I was refusing my true call. And in doing so, I destroyed my left leg, right? And I'm sitting there, and I was in pain My knee was the size of a golf ball. I couldn't walk. I was on crutches for months, right? And I have no muscle that's attached to my leg. It just rolled up like a rubber band.
Oh, shit.
But at that moment, that was my final call. I was in the shower, and I was laughing and crying hysterically at the same time. It wasn't a function of pain or sadness, right? What it was is that I was sorry for the decision I made. I was almost apologizing to my body for the poor choices I had made that led me to this point because I wouldn't listen to it. It had a truth to what it was telling me, and I ignored that truth day in and day out, and I finally made a choice that came back and had a huge backlash on me. And that was my turning point. I realized that this is a parallel, this is a lesson that I should always learn. That feeling that I had, never ignore it. Never once again ignore that. And from that point, I have followed my heart, my true passions, and my intuition from my gut always, and not one thing has never worked out the way it should have. Even if it was the most roundabout process.
That's so good. We're going to finish this. We're done with part 1 of the hero's journey.
And I hope that everyone can resonate with my story. And what that was just a physical accumulation of something that I ignored that was very non-physical.
And here's what I want. We're going to go right into the second episode.
Yeah.
And I hope people will listen and go, because this is a continuation. And we're going to get into part 3 and part 4. But I think we're going to start off with the enemies.
Yeah.
The test, the allies, and the enemies.
I love that.
We'll get into that. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Jason.